Hello students, welcome to Epitome IAS. So as a part of our answer writing program, we are exploring different types of questions, and moreover the governance related questions in the 2025 mains paper is relatively tough. In fact, the student should have in-depth conceptual understanding in order to write this kind of questions. Okay, right? What is the question here is, in contemporary development models, decision making and problem solving responsibilities are not located close to the source of information and execution, defeating the objectives of development. So this is the question asked. Okay, right. So first of all, the core concern is about development, right? The core concern of the question is about development. So naturally we need to write what is development, okay, in the introduction, right? So thereafter we will be elaborating upon what are the development models which are not helping in the better execution of the policies, better execution of development. How Indian development model is going wrong or going incorrect as far as the achievement of the developmental objectives is concerned. Okay, so let us understand that way. So first of all, in the introduction, what do you understand? What do you write? Okay, so here development means qualitative and quantitative changes in the lives of the people, okay, as well as the structure of society. So this is how you can define what is development, right? Development means qualitative and quantitative changes in the lives of the people as well as the structure of the society. You can also write the introduction by the means of Amartya Sen's quote, Amartya Sen definition of development. According to Amartya Sen, development means increasing choice and capability of people, so that people can get the kind of life they want. This is what called as development. Okay, right. So thereafter we need to focus upon the core concern of the question. If you try to look at the concern of the question, he is saying that decision making and problem solving responsibilities are not located close to the source of the information. So it means that in the present contemporary development models, most of the decisions are made at the top of the hierarchy. It means at the top level of the country. Okay, and it means the developmental models are more centralized, heavily centralized, top heavy models and bottom lean models. It means at the bottom level, the policy execution and policy determination is not being made. So thereby what is happening? What is happening? There is a defeat of objectives of development, right? So we need to write how the developmental models are top heavy. Okay, right. So we need to write these points here. In the body of the answer, let us focus upon the first part of the question. Okay, in the contemporary times the developmental models are top heavy. Okay, top heavy, which means the priorities, objectives or goals, okay, and the design of policy or scheme is completely done at the top levels. Okay, and these policies are expected to be resulting change in the field level. So this is what the core concern of the question, right? The policies or objectives or goals or designs of policy or scheme are decided at the top levels, and these are expected to be resulting in the changes at the field level. So this is how. So in fact, if you try to look at India, if you try to see the financial resources that are available at different levels, financial resources, okay, we have three-tiered three-tiered government model, where there is union government, state government, and local bodies, right? You can mention all these points in a systematic manner, okay, right? So in India, despite there are three tiers of government, the resource distribution at three levels is not symmetric. The union government has huge resource potential, that is 60% of the taxes are received by the union, and state government will be receiving 33%, and local bodies will be receiving just about 1%. So it means the resources are asymmetrically distributed across different governments, Not only that, even the constitution also empowered union government with huge resource potential and huge powers also. Even powers are also heavily vested with the central government, right? And states are having relatively lesser power compared to the union government, and local bodies are not completely empowered because they depend upon the devolution of the functions and finances by the state governments, because local bodies fall under the state list. So this means the central government usually plays, we can write these points, okay? We can say the central government usually plays in setting the policy priorities. Is it clear? But you understand what is the function of union government? Union government should focus upon the national level priorities, but not the local level and field level matters. Why? Because the central government may be having resources, but it is not having information. Okay, the information which is critical for the implementation of a given policy. So it means the central government is simply designing a scheme and policy and implementing these schemes and policies across the national level without any regional variation. For example, you take MG Narega. Okay, so the MG Narega is implemented by state governments and local bodies, but this particular scheme is funded, majority of the funds are received from the central government, and the objectives of the schemes are also decided by the central government, right? So this is not giving rise to any kind of local level innovation. Okay, so because every state may not be needing this scheme, or every area within the state may not be requiring this particular scheme, but still this particular scheme is imposed on various areas, right? Similarly, we can also see another point. For example, even with respect to local state governments, let us say, for example, state governments have the power on state list and concurrent list. Okay, of course union government has power on union list and concurrent list, right? State government also has many responsibilities towards the people, and particularly all the local matters generally fall under the state list itself. And from the state list, the state government has to give the power to local bodies. But unfortunately, from 11th and 12th schedule of the constitution, majority of the functions are not transferred to the local bodies, and majority of the matters at the local level still controlled by the state. That is how it is reflecting the situation where there is a top heavy decision making, and local bodies are not reasonably and properly empowered, right? So as a result, what is happening, we can see different types of policies, developmental models or policies we are able to see. For example, socialistic model. Okay, so previously, of course, even today in the liberalized era, we are still following the socialistic model of development. For example, in terms of welfare schemes, in terms of employment generation schemes, okay. For example, you take NRLM, National Rural Livelihood Mission, okay. Why the central government shall be designing this particular scheme? Better this scheme must be designed and implemented at the field level. State government must be having the capacity and opportunity to design this kind of schemes. So in other words, even today there is a high relevance of centrally sponsored schemes. Centrally sponsored schemes will take the priorities of entire nation, and they will try to promote one size fits all approach. One size fits all approach. So promoting no innovation and no creativity, right? And apart from that, the developmental models are also promoting one nation, that is homogeneity in approach. For example, one nation, one ration, okay, one nation, one tax, okay. So this is how, what is the homogeneity approach. But however, there is a requirement of centralization. Centralization is not too much bad. It is right in the case of one nation, one election. But one nation, one ration, Food Security Act, and there are other legislations which do not promote a high degree of flexibility for the states to find the innovative schemes and models, right. So that is why we can say in the developmental models and decision making and problem solving responsibilities are not located close to the source of information, right. So it means the developmental models you can take any model. For example, you take entitlement model, rights based approach, okay, supply demand driven approach, okay, decentralization model, decentralization approach, okay. Like this we can find different types of models, but every model entitlement, you are entitling the people for a given quantity and quality of services, and you are giving rights for the people to demand the services like Food Security Act, and demand driven approach, MG Narega, as long as the people demand the work, you need to provide that. Decentralization approach, okay, for example, establishment of local bodies, okay. Unfortunately, all these are decided at the top level, So as a result, what is happening? The policies that are implementing are losing the relevance of the local culture, local requirement, and local methods of doing things, okay. So it means, for example, we need to explain everything, okay. For example, you take a smart cities mission, right. It promotes a model called as SPV, special purpose vehicle. This special purpose vehicle overrides or sometimes overlaps the local body. Overrides or overlaps the local body. You take a National Rural Livelihood Mission. It does not integrate the local bodies in the promotion of self-help groups and self-help groups driven development, okay, right. So this is all centralization tendencies, and particularly you can also see infrastructure. You can see, for example, MG Narega, okay. On MG Narega, farmers have many concerns. Particularly, MG Narega shall not be implemented during the monsoon season and particularly agricultural season. And there is also concern that MG Narega must be integrated with agriculture. This is not permitted. This is not permitted. This is not effectively implemented, right? That is how the centralization has a problem. So overall we can identify certain points where the centralization leads to what kind of problems. The problems such as, first one, there is a gap of execution and implementation. Execution and implementation. Okay, you try to execute, but these are not properly implemented. Why? Because centralized policies lack the knowledge of local conditions and workability and non-workability. For example, you take DBT, direct benefits transfer. Okay, yes, you are transferring the money, but you do not understand whether the ration shop is accessible to the people or not, right? How the ration shop is maintained, whether the ration shop is accessible to the people. So those kind of issues are not identified here. Okay. Secondly, it promotes one size fits all approach. It means the schemes or programs are not customized to the needs of the people, right? Similarly, not utilizing local knowledge and information. Particularly regarding the design of any policy, the local knowledge, the practical knowledge is very, very important. Usually in the bureaucratic dominated policy making process, what will happen? They will ignore the knowledge of the local people. For example, in order to develop a tribal area, you require to have the culture and customary practices of the tribals. Okay, and you require the the essential information which can make the scheme or program that can be implemented properly, right? So these are the problems. First one is execution and implementation gaps, one size fits all approach, not utilizing knowledge and information. Next, lack of feedback loops. Okay, you do not know how the scheme or policy is actually resulting in the benefits. For example, you take midday meal scheme. Okay, whether the midday meal scheme has resulted in the acceptability of the food by the community or not, you do not know, and you do not also know what is the nutritional impact of this midday meal scheme. So it means there will be concerns regarding the midday meal or any other thing in the local communities, but these are not effectively addressed by the central level authority, right? Right. So then, what else you can mention? It ignores the participation, the willingness of the people, to accept or accessibility of the service. So whether the service is really accessible or not, whether the people have willingness to get the service or not, so that is not also considered. For example, you take in the ration shop, people get rice. Okay, whether this rice is really utilized by the consumers may not be, because the rice may not be as per the quality and standards of the community. So they may be having reasonable concerns about the quality of the rice they are getting in the public distribution system. So that is how there are certain concerns regarding the centralized policy making, right? And moreover, after LPG, okay, after in the second dimension of the answer, in the first dimension of the answer we will discuss all these things. In the second dimension of the answer, you need to write particularly after LPG, okay, we are promoting decentralized approach in the concept of development. Okay, so that administration must be closer to the people, and at the same time administration must enable the participation of the people in the developmental process. For example, we are promoting rural and urban local bodies, Panchayati Raj system, okay, by means of Panchayati Raj and urban local bodies by means of 73rd and 74th Constitutional Amendment Act. And we are also ensuring the administration must be made accountable to the people by means of social audit, so that the policy evaluation, okay, will be done by the community. The beneficiaries themselves will be able to assess whether the given policy is going in the right direction or not, whether it has yielded the right result or not. Similarly, we can see citizen charters. So this will enable time-bound delivery of services, right? And Right to Information Act, RTI, so that the government the government organizations will be made accountable to the people, accountability and transparency, right? These are the various initiatives. Moreover, after LPG you are able to understand another dimension of development. What is it called as networked governance, networked government or networked governance, where the state actually collaborates with non-state actors like civil society organizations such as SAGs, NGOs, community-based organizations. Like this, there are different organizations which will generally coordinate and collaborate with the state in the achievement of the developmental objectives. So, which means the LPG paradigm or the governance paradigm, if you try to see, this will promote a concept called as concept of principle of subsidiarity, right? The concept of principle of subsidiarity. This principle has been already advocated by Second Administrative Reforms Commission, right? What is this principle of subsidiarity? The principle of subsidiarity is the basis for true decentralization rather than a namesake decentralization. True decentralization rather than a namesake decentralization. So the true decentralization here is, first of all, we need to assign the priorities of development in a proper manner. For example, we need to understand the society has individuals. Above them, the individuals are gathered to become communities. Okay, so there will be civil society, or we can say community, of course, Panchayati Raj institutions, or urban local bodies we can say, local bodies. Over that there is state government. Over that there is union government. Like this, we can find the society, right? So previously, what was the policy? The union government will be having huge powers, and it will be giving funds, and it will be implementing or announcing the schemes which are to be implemented by the states as well as Panchayati Raj institutions. So it was it's a pre-globalized or pre-LPG model. Post LPG, what happened? We are trying to increase the liberty of the people. This is individual. Liberty of the people. Okay. So liberty of the people is possible when you empower the person. You can empower the person only when you are able to promote the concept called as minimum government, maximum governance. So government must reduce its control over the people and citizens. Government must reduce its powers. Government must reduce the laws. Government must devolve the powers to the local level. So that's why this principle of subsidiarity says power must be placed closest to the people. Power must be transferred to the institutions which are closest to the people. First of all, the primary perspective, the primary point of the principle of subsidiarity is first empower the individual by following minimum government, maximum governance approach. Okay, so where the individual will be able to have the liberty to cause whatever the action he requires, to take any initiative at his level to benefit himself. That is what called as at the individual level. And wherever the individual cannot fulfill certain things, those are to be done at the community level, right? For example, we are able to see ASHA workers, NRHM, it is promoting the, decentralized healthcare or decentralized public health management system, right? Anganwadis, Poshan Abhiyan, okay, Poshan scheme. These are all actually implemented at the community level, right? Anganwadi centers and ASHA workers, the community will be taking participation. And those things which are beyond the capacity of the community must be taken care at the local body level, right? For example, water supply and maintenance of the market in the given village, or sanitation services, etc. These are to be vested with the Panchayat Raj institutions. And those things which require the state level homogeneity must be done at the state level. Those things which are required at the union level, those which are at the nationally important things, so those are to be done by the union government. This is how you are clearly categorizing, you are clearly clarifying that which work must be done by which level of institution or which level of the person, okay. So individual must be having liberty to manage his own things, that is individual. For example, you take self-certification, if he constructs his home within 100 square yards, it does not require the permission explicitly from the Panchayat Raj institutions or urban local bodies, okay. So that is how individual can take his own decision. Community, PRA, state government and union government. That's why it is called as the principle of subsidiarity, as the basis for effective decentralization, right? But you understand, if you try to compare the present policies of the central government or state governments, you can say, for example, MG Narega, okay, Jal Jeevan, Swachh Bharat Mission, okay, right, like this NRLM you can take, okay. These kind of schemes are designed at the union level, okay, but these are better implemented at the, designed at the local level actually. You can give the policy framework, you can give the selection of the works under MG Narega, what must be done at the local level, because you are spending huge money. So every village may not be having the same requirements. Such diversity of requirements can be satisfied if the designing of schemes is devolved at the local level and community level. And Jal Jeevan, regarding water supply to the households. Swachh Bharat, this is the most important thing. Every locality may not be having same kind of problem, okay, similar kind of problem. Such diversity must be accommodated in the Swachh Bharat. NRLM, so a self-help groups and their promotion of a self-help groups in the development process may require a regional variation, okay, right. So this is how we need to be promoting what is this principle of subsidiarity. This principle of subsidiarity effectively bridges the gap between, what is it, right, that means the gap between execution and implementation. So what is the question you see here? Development models and decision making and problem solving responsibilities are not located close to the source of information and execution. So that's why, what is the solution? The solution here is following the principle of subsidiarity, so that you are able to ensure the execution of policy and making of the policy to be close to the source of information. Source of information is at the field level. So that's why the power and authority and resources must be kept closest to the people, okay. And those things which cannot be done at the local level only must be transferred to the next level. Otherwise, everything must be done at the local level itself. You take China. Actually, in China, we generally think that it is highly centralized, but in fact the reality is it is highly decentralized. 50% of the personnel, more than 50% of the personnel who are working in the country, they are actually situated at the local level. More personnel, more resources are made available at the local level. So similarly, such kind of initiatives must be taken, right? So what must be done? So in fact, we have adapted this decentralized approach, but in a piecemeal manner, So what is required? We need to follow recommendations of second ARC. The second ARC has recommended establishment of district level government, where district collector acts as secretary for the district level government, so that district collector will not overlap the local bodies. That is how you can truly empower the local bodies. Not only that, devolving the functions to local bodies based on principle of subsidiarity. Okay, and not only that, you can also encourage competition. Okay, encouraging competition among local bodies with proper incentives. So that is possible only when you are devolving the functions effectively to the local bodies, right? Next important thing is giving implementation responsibilities to the communities. Power must be transferred. Actually, what is being transferred? Responsibility is generally transferred to the local communities. But what is not transferred? Power is not transferred. What is this power about? Power about designing the scheme, power about setting priorities, or evaluation or monitoring. These are not given to the local communities. So such thing must be given to the local communities. Right? This is how we can write the answer. Right? So that's how the principle of subsidiarity will promote. The principle of subsidiarity will promote, first one, development suitable to the community. Okay. Second one, capitalizing the local knowledge and information. Okay. Third one, improved ownership of people over a policy. Fourth one, reducing the mastery of bureaucracy, so that you can debureaucratize the development. Debureaucratization of development. That means improving the participation of people, right? And next important thing, promoting flexibility and innovation. So this is how we can write the points. But however, we need to understand another point. Okay, what is that? Complete decentralization is also not good. Okay, however, excess decentralization is not good. Why? Reason is, society has a lot of inequalities. If everything is ideally decentralized, it may lead to elite capture. Okay. Similarly, certain policies due to their scale of implementation, and resources requirement, resources requirement. They can be designed centrally, centralized manner. Okay, right. For example, you take housing for all. Okay, right. So design can be centralized, but implementation shall be decentralized. Right. Next, third one is not in every part of India there is developed social capital. The social capital is not equally developed. That is, social capital is not equally developed. So hence you cannot give everything to the community for the implementation, right? And moreover, states are not ready to devolve effective powers is also due to lack of capacity of people to manage the technical affairs. Okay, right. So this is why excessive decentralization is also not good. So this is how you need to write answer. Okay, so I think you are get to know what we are talking about. So first of all, in contemporary development models, decision making and problem solving responsibilities are located not located to the close source of information and execution, defeating the objectives of development, right? So what did we write? First we have written what is development. Development means qualitative and quantitative changes in the lives of the people as well as the structure of the society. So we have written the Amartya Sen definition also, right? Thereafter we need to understand how the present development models are promoting centralization, right? We have promoted socialistic model, and even we are implementing the socialistic model in terms of the welfare schemes and employment generation schemes. These are promoting one size fits all approach, and they are very much homogeneity in their approach, like one nation, one ration, those kind of things, and one nation, one electricity, like this. There are too many things. Okay, so where states are able to deal certain things, but central government is taking away certain things which can be done better at the state level. And so there is some kind of understanding that what are the problems if the policies are highly centralized. For example, we have written here there are certain models such as they appear to be decentralized, but they are not really centralized. For example, entitlement model, right based approach, demand driven approach, and decentralized approach, everything is there. But who will decide which right the people must be having? The central government will be deciding. To what extent they must be having? The central government will be deciding. For example, you take poverty. Initially, the poverty definition of very poverty is very much wrongly decided, which was based upon calorie consumption. Okay, it means policy makers define what is poverty at the top level, and they will design the scheme according to their own definition. So it lacks the effective information and effective rationale. That's the reason why the models of developments are based upon wrong assumptions and wrong perceptions, right? Similarly, we can also understand what are the problems associated with the centralized models. There is a gap between execution and implementation, one size fits all approach, not utilizing local knowledge and information, lack of feedback loops. It ignores willingness of the people to accept, or it may not be anticipating what are the accessibility challenges of such services. And moreover, we can also write another point here. And sixth one we can say is lack of people ownership. Lack of people ownership on a given policy. For example, you take mandal level, there is PHC. The PHC is not under the control of the local body, rather it is under the control of the district administration. So actually the services are to be given at the mandal level, and there must be people control over that institution, that is local bodies control over the institution, where local body can effectively monitor whether the services are being given or not, whether the doctors are punctual or not, whether the medicine are made available or not. But unfortunately such thing is missing. So this is resulting all these challenges, right? And then we need to emphasize what is a better model. So we need to emphasize upon the principle of subsidiarity, right? The principle of subsidiarity. Already Government of India after LPG is adopting the decentralized approaches in the form of RTI, citizen charters, social audit and panchayat raj system, so that people will get the ownership over the government. But unfortunately it is not effective enough. Why it is not effective enough? It is not truly following concept of principle of subsidiarity. Then we need to write what is principle of subsidiarity, right? So after that we need to write, so we can write the agencies which have recommended, like second ARC, and what else has recommended, like district level government devolving the functions to the local bodies based on the principle of subsidiarity. Okay, and we can also give the examples. Despite these are implemented at the local level, unfortunately they are not designed according to the requirements of people. They lack the local information, they lack the support of the people. Okay, they lack the people capacity. I mean, they do not give the people to decide their own choice of development. So that is why they are not as per the principle of subsidiarity. We can explain that way, right? Then we will write why it is why the principle of subsidiarity is useful this way. One is development is suitable to the community, capitalizing the local knowledge and information, and increase the ownership of people over the policy, reducing the mastery of bureaucracy. That's how debureaucratization of development, promoting flexibility and innovation in the policy making and policy implementation. However, excess decentralization is not good, because society has a lot of inequalities. If everything is ideally decentralized, it may lead to elite capture, and certain policies, due to their scale of implementation, resource requirement, they can be designed at the central level. For example, housing for all, and digital India mission, etc. Not in every part of India there is development of developed social capital. People lack the capacity to govern themselves. So in that requirement also there is a requirement of centralization. States are not ready to devolve effective powers is also due to some genuine reason, that is lack of people to manage the technical aspects of the administration. So these are the various things. So now we need to sum up in the form of conclusion. Okay, right. So what we need to write is, we need to summarize what all the points we have discussed in the answer. Right. In the conclusion we will write, in India development processes face challenges due to the top centric or top down approaches followed by the developmental models. Okay, so in order to effectively realize developmental priorities, we need to build the governance systems, governance and developmental models according to the principle of subsidiarity. However, the decentralization of development must be made after careful consideration of consideration of various factors, various factors such as capacity, technology, and feasibility. Okay, this is how we need to write the conclusion. Okay, so this makes the complete answer. Okay, so question cannot be just understood in a superficial manner, rather we need to have an in-depth understanding of the question, thereby we are able to write an effective answer. So for queries, please call upon the institute regarding answer writing and mentorship related programs. We will provide well structured answers and in a real time basis, so you don't require to follow any kind of internet based sources or any other thing. Just you need to think about the subject originally, get it conceptualized and interrelate with the current affairs. So that is enough in order to write an effective answer. Okay, so please post your comments, and you can also ask the doubts in the comment box. Thank you.
మాట్లాడుకుంటూ తొందరగా వెళ్ళిపోతాము. రిటర్న్ వస్తా అన్నారా? ఏమైనా దిగురు ఎట్లా మరి ఆడిపోతున్నావు?